Okay, there we go. The setting was set to the wrong microphone. All right, so um, as usual, I am here for the our fourth Wednesday Ask Me Anything event. If you have any questions, go ahead, drop them into the chat. If anything's come up, I hope everybody's doing okay with their furry friends. Uh, they're getting a lot more time involved with them as with this quarantine going on. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. I'd be happy to answer them. Um, like all businesses, we kind of slowed down quite a bit because of this whole stay-at-home order, but we are doing a lot better as time goes on. People are starting to figure out how this video conferencing is working, and we're actually starting to pick up clients more and more with the video conferencing, which I actually kind of enjoy. Um, I have less hands on with the animal, of course, but what I get to do is uh, a friend of mine said that he utilized my services, and he actually described it. He's an educator, and he described it as the bug in ear technique. So basically, I describe what you're going to do. We're going to do it, and then throughout the process, while you're working to train your dog and on camera, I then go and kind of just give you advice as you're doing it, so that way you don't pick up any bad habits for too long. Oh, we got our first question. Hey, Meg, I hope you're doing okay in your new place. How are you guys doing during the stay-at-home stuff? First, second, we're taking the pups camping, backpacking this summer. Any tips on new experiences and travel? Okay, a couple things on that. One, at first, we'll answer the first one. We're doing actually pretty good. Um, it was scary at first because as the stay-at-home order, most of my clients were face to face, had to basically cancel all of those, um, which that was kind of scary and upsetting because I wanted to continue in those behaviors. But we are doing, it's starting to pick up with the video conferencing sessions, which I just kind of described a little bit. So we're doing good. We also got a PPP loan, one of those paycheck protection plans loans from we went through Western State Bank, and they actually got us through really easy. It was pretty painless. Just had to do a few paperwork, and it was great to have that little bit of breathing room. Otherwise, we're doing okay. Uh, now, taking the pups on vacation. Okay, this is tough because it's really hard to mimic a camping trip anywhere else. Um, Real big key to that is desensitizing as much as possible. So maybe taking them out, maybe at night, getting them. That's a one thing. Getting them used to shadows and things like that. Practice those recalls. That thanks. Good to see you too, Chris. And yeah, I'm really happy that we're doing good. So, as I was saying, with the travel, get them used to different things. Some things that people don't think about are shadows and darkness. Maybe take them for some walks. Meg has been a client in the past, so maybe do some target recall work under those stressors of things that they don't see normally. Um, if you're going to camp in a tent, I definitely, a few different things I suggest. I don't necessarily like those triangular corkscrew things to put into the ground if you do have to tether your leash your dog to the campsite. I actually prefer there's these kind that are much heavier duty, and they actually spin around rather than getting tied up around that little solid triangular piece. But you have to hammer them down pretty good um, into the ground. But those are tested, and those are much higher tested than those corkscrew ones. Corkscrews, I think, are actually only tested for only like a 40 or 50 pound dog. Learned that the hard way long, long ago. And then the triangular ones, they look just like a big long nail with like little triangle pieces on the side. Those hold for like 500 pounds or something crazy like that. So I would definitely use those if you do have to tether your pups. Um, Get them used to as many sights and sounds as you can between now and then. If you are planning on using a oh shoot, what was I going to say? Oh, backpack. If you're going to plan on using a backpack, get them used to having that backpack and first put it on empty. Um, my dogs, when we started them with the backpack training, we just kind of put it on empty. They wore it around the house a little bit, wore it out on some walks, and we added a few things here and there. And on those, they don't recommend going more than a third of a dog's weight. So make sure you stay under that for sure. Also, that's of course variable depending on how healthy and your dog is and how good their knees and joints are, stuff like that. But really, the kicker you're going to have the most problem with is sleeping at night with all the animals and sounds going off, because that's what's going to wake up. They're going to react to that. Yeah, pulls the triangle ones out. Lines between trees can work. Once again, it just comes down to the cabling. The triangle one, well, I'm not sure if you're thinking of the same ones. I have some somewhere. They're probably in the car. That's usually where we keep them, or in the garage with our camping gear. I'll see if I can get a good picture of one, and I will post it onto here. But the ones I'm thinking of, they don't come out easy. I mean, this is like a 2-foot stake that you have to put all the way down into the ground. And I've had 200 or 300 pounds of dogs on it, and they did not actually do much to it. So the line between trees, I like that even better, because it also prevents them from tangling up on themselves, because they will get overexcited on these camping trips, and so you don't want that to happen, because obviously if a tether or leash gets around their limbs, it does have the potential to actually kind of break a limb. So you don't want. So I do like the tether if you can tether between tree lines. The problem is with multiples. The corkscrew triangle one. Yeah. Those are worthless. I'll see if I can find a picture of the outdoor dog tether. But really, the main thing is get them used to things at night. Let's see here. Get them used to those different noises and different things at night that are happening, because that's going to be the real kicker for you. 9 times out of 10. If you can, though, definitely like if you can do it. But the problem is, you're not always going to have the correct trees, or a tree that will suffice, or one that has it limbs low enough down that you could safely put it up and it would stay up rather than constantly falling down the tree. But you are always guaranteed the ground point. Let's see if I can. But they do have camping dog zip lines. If you look those up, those are probably the best way to go. Let's see. I think I've almost got the thing that yep, there's the corkscrew ones I hate. There's the one that I like. Mine are a bit more heavy duty than this. Here we go. Let's see if I can figure out how to share this. Let's see here. Let's see. Outdoor dog supply. It's a dome tie out stake is what we're looking for. And it looks something like this. Let me see. If I transfer here and then I add a source, can I add a screen capture? Let's see. Desktop 3, I think it is. Nope, it's not desktop 3. Let's see here. We'll hide that. That's the eternal loop there. Desktop. Monitor 2. Oh no, it's telling me. desktop one. There we go. This is the thing that I'm thinking of right here. And there we go. Let's actually put my camera up top. There we go. So this little thing up there, it's over, backwards. It is up there in that corner, but that would stake straight down into the ground, and that spins so it doesn't cause the problem. You even see the corkscrew kind. But you just want those firm soil tie out stakes. Those are the things that we kind of want to do. All right. All right. So if anybody else has any questions, go ahead, put them in there. If you're having any issues with your puppers during this time, I know one issue that has come up with at my house is we have a couple very reactive dogs. They've always been reactive their whole lives. And while we have improved that, it's just like any other mental issue. If you have anxiety, you can go to the psychologist, but they're only going to fix things so much. If you have depression, they're only going to be able to fix things so much, and there's kind of a management equation to it. So for our more reactive dogs at our house, they're going crazy because all the kids are out. That was the first thing we noticed was they were, I'm going to actually adjust my seat here. They were much more reactive to all the things going on. And actually right now, my dogs are not here because my wife is home and I'm at the computer, which is a far more, that's human boring time. She's way more interesting right now upstairs. But yeah, so if you're having issues with that, now would be a good time to actually practice some of those behaviors, to redirect them during when kids are playing at any hours of the day. So if anybody's having any other issues, just go ahead, put those into the chat, and I will be happy to answer those. We are surviving pretty well here in the Buckman household overall. As I said earlier, we're thanking some of you, probably actually a lot of people noticed on our Facebook page that we did get one of those paycheck protection plans. As soon as I learned about the program, I applied for it because I thought that was the best route to go during these tough times, and as well as continue to pursue our online consultations. But as people start figuring out how to use things like Zoom, which I've actually been doing online consultations for a long time. I did them. Actually, that was my first education job at the zoo. I was actually manager of distance learning and technology. So that was what I did. I've actually been using Zoom for about a decade or so. When the trend switched from one form of video conferencing to the Zoom, when I started my business, I instantly bought the professional package for Zoom and have been keeping that up. And I've been using it for my out-of-state clients that need help. I've actually found it to be very useful because nowadays it's a tool that trainers in the past were not able to use, but I mean, everybody has one of these things. So everybody has a camera and they can all kind of help see the video, and I can actually guide people through the training process with them. Tucker is getting old and having a hard time keeping up on walks with Gizmo. Do you recommend the dog stroller? Recommending the dog stroller depends on the dog. I'm trying to remember. So if the dog handles it okay, that's fine. And you can actually acclimate them to the stroller. It's perfectly fine. I don't mind the stroller for a dog that is basically convalescent, getting older, can't quite do what the other dogs are doing. Actually, I have a little video that I did of Namara. She doesn't run with the pack anymore because she's kind of in the same boat, and we're kind of wondering what we'll do when we hit that point. But it just like anything else, it's going to take acclimation. For example, Namara, my older dog, she's 13 now. She can't go up things as well. And she struggled to use a ramp. I bought ramps for the car. I bought ramps for the beds. She goes there and she will avoid the ramp at all costs because that's something new and scary and annoying to her. She doesn't know how to use it. Same with the stroller that you'd be doing. I'd take lots of treats, get them used to it. And then once they're used to it, they'll be like, oh, this is chill. Now, Namera, when she goes upstairs, I actually come down and I hook my arm underneath her to give her a little bit of support as she goes upstairs. At first, she didn't like that, but then once she figures out, oh, this makes my life easier, you actually end up with what's known as negative reinforcement, not purposeful negative reinforcement, but the fact that whatever the activity is causing them pain. So you're actually removing that pain. So they want to do that more. They'll want to use the stroller. They want you to give them a little support here and there once they have that realization that there's less pain involved. However, sometimes you might need some positive reinforcement, some treats up front to make them used to it, because otherwise, when you don't have control of where you're going, it gets a little scarier. So you might want to ease them into those little stroller moments. Maybe do it in the backyard a little bit, and then go out and try to use the stroller. It just depends on where the dog is. It still is good almost always. There's always going to be exceptions to this, to keep the dog moving, though. For example, with Namera, she can't go on the runs with the pack. When I do run, I'm trying to get back into shape. I don't know how anybody else's workout routines have been during this quarantine, but mine went to... So I'm trying to get back into it, even though I'm stuck at home. But I'm taking the big pack with me. We're going. Namera cries because I left without her. Then I come back and I walk her at least, because at least a little bit of exercise still keeps those joints kind of moving. And yeah, they might be a little sore, but some movement is better than zero movement. And there's almost this kind of like downward slope once you start overcompensating for a lot of these different things. So watch out for overcompensating for it, because once they stop moving, it's almost like this kind of snowball effect, and other arthritic things might actually speed up because there is no motion. There is more atrophying going on than would have just normally happened. So it just depends. If the dog is having a hard time with the walks, maybe take them and then give them the option after they've learned to go into the stroller. However, you got to watch out. Sometimes you'll have to be the adult and kind of be like, hey, maybe you walk 10 more steps, dog, because we do need to get some motion out of you. Otherwise, the decline tends to go a little faster. So yes, it just always depends. A lot of times I will, especially with mobility and things like that, definitely consult your vet. They might be like, hey, he's in so much pain. And some dogs, they do not show the amount of pain they're in. So you think they're doing fine, and they're actually like at a 7 out of 10 on the pain scale, but they're just keeping it all internal. So really just communicate with your vet. Maybe do some movement exercises. Even if they are decrepit and can't move on their own per se, maybe even just making their arms do some physical therapy. Once again, under the guidance of the vet, which ones are good for your dog. Yeah, exactly. It's something just take it along, and then when the dog's like, okay, I'm done, let them hop into the stroller. But you're still going to need to train them and show them that the stroller is not a scary, horrible thing to kind of go through. All right. Once again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. I'd be happy to answer them for you. We are doing our 4th Wednesday Ask Me Anything little moment, so we can share our knowledge with anybody having any. Not a problem, Chris. If anybody has any questions, go ahead, put them into the chat. We are not doing face-to-face at this point in time, but we are doing video consultations. So as I said, with anybody has this phone, we get online onto the Zoom is what I utilize, and we will come up with a behavior plan. We'll go over whatever issues you're having, and then we will also walk you through the steps. So it's not just like, okay, you should do this, come back to me. It'll be, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Now I'm going to have you do it in front of me a little bit, so that way I know that you're doing it in the correct way, and we can get those rough patches out before I leave you for the week or two. that we usually do in between sessions, and then we come back, see what's working, see how much improvement we have as usual, and advance the plan if we can. All right, looks like we have somebody in here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. We'll be here till 9 o'clock. All right. I am going to start catching up on some videos over the next few days. That is the goal. Schedules and everything just kind of went everywhere, just like the rest of the world. So we're just trying to catch back up on some of those things. We got the paperwork all covered. I kind of went into a bookkeeping mode that more than I normally do. It's tax season, and like a lot of people, the book stuff is not why I got into the business. So that sometimes it's put a little on the back burner. But so we got into the bookkeeping. That's all caught up. So now I'm hoping to get some more videos. A number of questions got asked not too long ago. I still have those in notes to be going over. So those, expect to see those coming out over the next few weeks on some different behavioral things. And as usual, if you have any questions, drop them into the chat. I'd be happy to answer anything that you are going through. Some people are with their dogs a lot more than they normally are. And this could be a great opportunity, honestly, to get some of those behaviors or just see what you can do. Maybe you can figure out some, learn to communicate with your pup a lot more than you previously thought. And I know some people have had more issues with the busyness that's going on. There's a lot more deliveries going around their neighborhoods, a lot more kids playing outdoors. So that can be causing some issues with the pets, or just simple boredom. The pups and the people are all stuck in the same place. I'm loving seeing all these memes where people are talking about now they're starting to understand why their dog overreacts when people come by, because they're stuck in think about it, for them, they're usually stuck in this kind of quarantine situation that we're now in. So for them, this is kind of a normal thing, except for the humans are there more often. And but now it just gives people a better perspective of, oh, this is why you get a little overexcited whenever somebody's outside, because a lot of people are getting the feel that cabin fever, if you will. All right, I see a couple people. I'm not sure if they're the same or not, but if you have any questions, go ahead, drop them into the chat, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions. But as I also mentioned a little bit earlier, we will be doing some more videos coming out here shortly. We kind of I went into bookkeeping mode, so I fell behind on some of my videos. Plus, with all this going on, had some loans and various other paperwork to fill out and get all that bookkeeping done. So we kind of switched gears to the less exciting side of having a pet training business, and hoping to get more back into it as people realize that video consultations do work. We've had quite a few people very happy with the results of those video consultations. In the past, it's generally only been used by my out-of-state clients, because I obviously don't travel the country, and most people don't want to pay that mileage fee. But this still lets us communicate on how to positively train their animals in a much faster way. A friend of mine was actually just talking. He had hired me for a new dog. He got an older dog, and he was just having some issues, because usually older dogs come with just a previous mindset, a previous way of doing things, which untraining an old behavior or getting rid of an old behavior is harder than putting in a blank slate like a puppy. Puppies have high energy, so they have a different set of issues when you're working with them. But with I liked his he described how the methodology with using the video consultation, because we got to the point where I was done explaining how things work and what we were going to do, and then we got to the point where he was actually working with his dog, and after a few minutes, he realized two things: A, it requires a ton of more patience than he was expecting, and B, he called it the bug in ear technique, because basically he'd be doing it, and while he's doing it, he'd hear me just kind of coaching and going, "Yeah, perfect, excellent. Okay, draw back on that. Do this. Don't do that. Hold it. Wait, and I." That's usually the main thing I'm constantly telling a lot of clients, because that patience factor is huge. So I'm usually going, hold, as in the person needs to hold still, don't move. Because one thing that everybody wants to do is really just guide that animal to the next step. Like, oh, they're not doing it, they're never going to get it. I'm like, just wait for that epiphany moment. So usually I'm kind of coaching them, guiding them through that little that little phase. That's probably my most entertaining for me, is going through that moment, and then the look of joy right after that is really the best. Actually, that's the best part, when the dog does do the thing and the person's like, yes. So because then they have finally made that connection, that communication has been fulfilled. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead, put them into the chat. It doesn't have to be about just animal training. It can be literally about anything. I've worked with animals, particularly exotic animals, most of my life, and domestic animals, dogs and cats, and lions and bears, oh my. But if you have any questions on behavior, on training, any issues you're having with any pets in the house, go ahead, drop them into the chat there. Looks like we have a few new people. Thanks for stopping by. All right. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead, put them into the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. We had a question already about camping, and we've had a question about basically an older dog who is having a harder time moving around, per se. So the thing with older dogs, that's actually a common. There are two common things that I keep coming across. One is the older dog that suddenly starts acting out, and 9 times out of 10, and I always start with those, especially. Well, anytime there's a sudden behavior, I always say, let's talk to the vet first, because behavior doesn't happen fast. Usually, if there's sudden outbursts of change in behavior, there is a reason, and usually it's discomfort or something along those lines. General thing, if you're under pain, your fuse is a lot smaller than it normally has been in the past. So what we do is we just go to the vet, make sure everything's okay. Even then, though, most vet checks are only a kind of a surface check, if you will. So they don't necessarily notice every single bit of arthritis or anything else that pops up. So maybe that could be potentially leading to those behaviors. And the other thing actually that's been coming up a lot lately, it is everybody talking to me. It's usually always my aggression clients. They're always talking to me about, oh, well, I spayed and neutered my dog to reduce the aggression. Unfortunately, that doesn't really change aggression behavior or reactive behaviors, however you want to term it. It was believed, but once upon a time, that had a major effect, but there was no actual studies. It was just more or less assumed. Okay, we're changing the hormone spectrum of this animal, it's going to calm down. Yes, you are changing the hormone spectrum of the animal, but after they actually studied, they actually did studies on this. They actually found it's still a little wavery, but the one thing they have found is spaying and neutering actually does not fix anything at all when it comes to reactivity in animals. And in about half the studies that are coming out, they're actually showing that if anything, it increases the chance of an animal actually becoming more reactive or more aggressive after getting spayed and neutered. Now, that doesn't mean not to spay and neuter your pets, because the purpose of that is not for behavior management. The purpose of that is actually for population management. We have so many extra pups and things out there that uncontrolled breeding is overflooding our our animal shelters all the time. But what I don't want people to do is look at this as some type of miracle cure that's going to come up. Oh, well, we're spaying and neutered the dog, so it's going to go away. I will tell you 100% of the time, I get hired after that. Every time a potential client comes up to me and says, okay, well, we're going to spay and neuter the dog, and then we'll come back to you if the problem persists. 100% of the time, they will be coming back to me. Or another trainer in that case, because it doesn't have the effect that people used to think it did. The reasons for it causing increased aggression could be a number of different factors. One, because it is a surgery, we're removing organs out of the animal. So there could be a potential that there is a chronic pain issue. I, for one, had hernia surgery at one point in time, and there was a nerve that was painful for me. It just never went away. It was a pain because there was a nerve that was still alive, but its end kept sending signals to the rest of my body. So I just was under pain. That's all there is to it. And a similar thing could be going on with the dog. So you could have potential of that. Just a minor little underlying pain that wasn't there before that is there now. And you could also have the hormone change. It's just not doing the exact same hormone change that we're thinking. We're thinking, oh, progesterone's down, testosterone's down. But a lot of those behaviors more have to do with the balance within each other than they do with, oh, lots of this or lots of that. It's more like, well, this one's putting out this much and this much kind of balances. It's really complex. I'm not an endocrinologist by any means, but there's a lot of different theories as to why these studies are actually showing that there's either no change in behavior after spay or neutering, or there is an increase in spay and neutering, or an increase in actual reactive or aggression tendencies after the surgeries. So by all means, spay and neuter your pets, but just don't expect it to be a behavioral change. Behavior is a learned thing 100% of the time. There has to be some amount of learning involved. More and more, we kind of, as behavior science advances, we tend to notice that the idea of instinct is less and less. Bird songs, those aren't instinct. They're actually taught by the parents when the bird is a baby. They did experiments on that. They taught it different bird calls. And if it heard a different call when it was a little chick, it would do that new call. Or sometimes if its vocal cords couldn't match up with the sound, it would just do some weird bastardization attempt at that sound that it heard as a baby. The idea, just basically the idea of instinct, is far less broad than people had originally thought. And even with reptiles, they're doing more cognitive research on them, and it's just showing more and more. But as usual, if anybody has any questions, go ahead, pop them into the chat, and I'd be happy to answer for you. I see Deb Travers is in. How you doing? I hope everything's going okay with you and Sass. I'm sure she's still a high energy pup. And once again, I do really want to thank Western State Bank, because they did help us out quite a bit with our local PPP loan, that Paycheck Protection Plan. I honestly didn't think we were going to be able to get it through, because you hear all the news and everything and that they ran out of money. But they made the process painless and seamless, and this week we got that. So we're going to be keeping going with the business. And once all this passes, we're going to hit the ground running and be at people's houses with them and their pups before we know it. But till then, we will do the online consultations. Hmm. Wondering if everybody can hear all the noise upstairs. I can hear all the dogs moving around. My wife is doing, I think, cleaning or something along those lines, and as usual, the dogs have to find out what's the interesting thing that's happening over here. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? One thing I do suggest for everybody, since they do have all this time with their pups, especially if you're doing video, a lot of people are doing those video Zoom meetings. During those times, actually look into doing DIY, what we call enrichment ideas. That way, your dog is entertained while you are in the meeting. You basically just come up with, usually it's some type of puzzle feeder or something that they have to kind of figure out as they go. And that goes a long way to actually keeping your pet occupied. Kongs are great, but Kongs are the simplest of puzzle. They're just a hole with food inside. So what you want to do, hey Yuri, how's it going? So what you want to do is you want to actually make it a slightly more complicated little food puzzle or thing that they need to figure out. The simplest one is a dowel rod with a couple boards and you put the dowel rod inside a bunch of bottles, and you drop food in them, and then the dog has to like hit them or spin them to make the food drop out. It's the simplest thing to do and interact in it. Rather than just giving them treats here and there, it'll give them something to do for a little while until they're done. So if you are doing some online classes or learning or trying to do a meeting of some sort, that's a good way to keep your dog occupied off in the corner while you're kind of going through your stuff. If anybody has any questions, go ahead, drop them into the chat. We'd be happy to answer those right away. We got 20 minutes left on our Ask Me Anything little monthly excursion. Hope everybody is staying safe. This is trying times, and it is definitely rough on everybody involved, but we can make it through. But all right. All right. Uh-oh, I seem to have lost my video. Let me know. Go ahead, throw in the chat. Let me know what issues you're having with any of your pups going on. What surprising thing are you coming across with your pets? For me, I'm not too surprised. I pretty much know all their ins and outs pretty well. The only thing I mentioned earlier is our more reactive ones are a little bit more high strung because there's more activity going on outside as all the kids are on their bikes and doing different things throughout the day a lot more often than they would be during the school year, than the regular school year, because it's still in school. They are still in school at this point in time. So, but they still are a lot more out there. Oh, it looks like a lot more people are looking in. If you have any questions, go ahead, put those into the chat. It can be about animal training. It can be about animal behavior issues you're having. It could be something that your pet did that was cute, and we can talk about that. I'm fine with that. Or if you have any other behavior questions, like, hey, I saw an animal doing this, or I heard this. I love fixing information. There's a lot of wrong information out there on the internet. Love fixing that. So if anybody has any animal questions on that, I'd be happy to answer. We'll be on until 9 o'clock tonight. Then we'll be back on in the fourth Wednesday of May, which actually, what is the fourth Wednesday now that I think about it? Oh, well, the next one time I'll be on will actually be my birthday. And that will, I think my wife is a little upset. She's not going quite able to, she had plots because it is one of the bigger birthdays. It is, it is a, how do I want to say this? It is a tertiary. Yeah, that sounds right. It is a, it's going to be the big 4-0. So looks like my big 4-0 is just going to be stuck inside. I was confused when my wife said she was plotting, but okay. Taking dogs for a walk when I'm riding my bicycle. What can I do to keep them close without running in front of me? Okay, this one, actually, I do see there is a thing to do with this, but you have to teach them slowly. First, it's kind of like the stroller I was talking about earlier. You want to get them used to being beside the bicycle. Also, you're going to have to keep a close eye on your dog because obviously sometimes they don't quite go as fast. So you're going to have to be able to match pace with them very well. There are actual pieces that you can get that will assist in keeping the dog at the right distance. The problem is if you're biking and you have a dog that's out of control and they cross you, it's going to be a super dangerous situation for both you and the dog. Usually I don't necessarily suggest bike riding with the dog. I do prefer running, but it is an option. There are actually special hookups that you can do that will keep the dog. It'll basically make the dog a more solid, rather than holding the leash with the handlebars, which is a dangerous situation. I've done it, did it a couple times and said, why am I doing this? This is too dangerous. There's actually setups that you can get to attach to your bike. And what it does is it creates a solid rod and then drops down with a short leash. So that way the dog stays at a good distance. Let's see if I can find one. Or there's one where the dog goes behind, but if it's behind, the thing I don't like about the ones that go behind is it's real easy for you to get distracted and not pay attention to where the dog is in conjunction to you. So there are hands-free bike dog leash setups. I'm looking for a picture to see if I can find one on how they set up. There we go. Here are a number of things, but basically what you want is something solid that kind of goes off to the side. As I said, I don't like the ones that go behind because it's real easy for you to become distracted and not be paying attention to the dog. And if they do trip up, you're dragging your dog and you might not even know if it's a really busy or loud street. Let's see. I'm going to actually pull up this here to kind of show. Let's see if I got a good setup. Okay, here we go. So here's one I kind of like. Let's see if we can go to this website and kind of show what it looks like. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to shrink now. There we go. So this actually attaches to the side of the bike. Let's see if there's a good picture. There was a good picture of it on the side, but you can see it attaches right here, goes straight out. It makes it solid, and then there's an attachment so the dog's off on the side. Those are the ones I like. The ones I don't like are like this one. I do not like this because it is very easy for somebody to become distracted while on the bike and not notice what is happening with the dog. This is where dogs will get injured. It's kind of like the trucks. I don't like those. Literally tens of thousands of dogs die every year because people put them into the back of the pickup truck. But that's not a safe environment for the dog. A sudden stop, the dog could get excited, jump out. A faster turn than you realized, and the dog was standing up and it rolls out the side. Kind of same idea. You're going to have less major injuries per se with a bike, but I definitely prefer those side attachments. Kind of like, here's another good one. Let's see. Yeah, something along this line. This is this type of stuff. You just attach it to the side of your bike, it goes off to the side. Now, I also suggest slowly teaching your dog, getting them used to this. Turn it into a kind of thing where it will enjoy it, because if they the first time they see it, they're going to be scared. Most dogs do not like bicycles because there's grinding of gears, and if you grind metal, you're making very high pitched sounds, and those high pitched sounds, those dogs don't like them. Just flat out, dogs do not like those high pitched sounds. So you got to get them used to it. I would just do it slowly in the backyard a few times, get them used to it. Maybe try some commands. I also like to warn the dogs. You're also going to need to teach them a stop, a go, a left, a right, because they need to know when you're about to do things. Because if they don't have a warning, they're going forward while you turn, they're still going to get yanked. So there's going to be a lot of learning and teaching. I actually have a video. It's not with bikes, but it is in my YouTube and my Facebook videos. There is a video about running with dogs. And that kind of gives you an idea of some of the things you're going to need. You're going to need a stop. You're going to need a go. You're going to need to be able to tell them left or right. Because if you hit a fork, they need to know how to follow. And usually I do some type of visual as well. Also, every time I hit an intersection, whether it's on a bike or running, which I really don't bike with the dog anymore, but I will always slow down to give them a chance to think and process. What is he saying? Oh, okay, we'll go this way. So that way you don't end up having a miscommunication, and then both of you get injured because of that. So you kind of have to work as a team. If you're going that fast, I do try to avoid treats as much as possible, because anytime a dog is running, I always get paranoid about that whole gut flipping thing. They talk about it in Marley and Me. Usually it happens with older dogs, but it also can happen with an active dog. It's why you don't want to feed certain things to a very active dog when they're running. You don't want to feed them mid-go, because you could end up flipping their stomach. If it's a minor exercise, it's not as bad, walking, whatever, but when you're running full bore, they can end up with gas churning in their stomach. That can be either discomforting or even fatal, depending on what happens. So those are all the things I would watch out for, but definitely get one of those attachments that puts the dog off to the side, because then it's not attached to your hand. Because if the dog jerks and you're attached to the hand, you're just going to be like that, and it's going to be bad for everybody. So those are my suggestions when it comes to biking with dogs. And I have done the biking with dogs in the not good way. Some of these lessons I have are from the tougher form of learning, the trial and error methods. I hope that answered your question, Tammy. I see some people kind of coming in and out. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm on for another 10 minutes, and if it's a good conversation starter, then I don't mind going a little late by any means. We are doing the online video consultations right now. I use Zoom. I've got many years of experience working with it. When I did education with a zoo, the first thing that I was in charge of was distance learning. Eventually Zoom came across and we started using that. So I've got like a decade or more experience using video, or I got more than a decade on video conferencing, but I have a decade with Zoom. And I've found that it works very well. When I switched and started my own business for dog training, I got a Zoom account right away. And I've been using it for my out-of-state clients, because I do get hired by people that are out of state. And while they would love for me to be able to go there, the few $1,000s on the mileage fee, not most people want to pay that. So, but we're actually able to do pretty much everything with the online video consultation, because we go through it, I talk about it with you, and then I become a bug in your ear while you go through and practice in front of me. And I just go, okay, good, excellent, no, hold, wait, no, do this, do that, shift left, shift right. So I guide you through the process just like I was there. The only step that gets missed is I don't start with the dog, which sometimes I don't anyway, because there's a thing called a trust bank, and some dogs give you a $500 deposit once I walk in the door. Some dogs are like, hey buddy, you're in a deficit already. You got to work your way up for the trust. So for those dogs, I have to start with the client anyway, because they're the ones who have the full trust bank. Hi Steve, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope if anybody has any questions, pet training, pet behavior issues that they're having, or any animal in general. Maybe you saw a meme that you're like, is this true? There's a good chance that I actually know the answer to that. I've got decades and decades of animal knowledge in my head and animal behavior knowledge as well. So if you have any questions, go ahead, throw them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. And if we have a good conversation going, I'm supposed to be on till 9, but if it's a good question, then we're going to continue going. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Thatcher. Once again, I do want to thank Western State Bank. They helped us with the CARE Act payment protection plan. Was able to get that processed, hammered it out. I did get a little delay on some of the videos that I was hoping to put out, just because I had no idea what we were doing because of this. Well, the world doesn't know what we're doing right now. But I had to catch up on a lot of bookkeeping because, like a lot of people, it's my totally favorite thing to do. So I totally keep up with it. Yeah. Anyway, so caught up with that. Hoping to put out some videos over the next few weeks. I had some questions out earlier. If you ever have questions and you want me to do a video on something, go ahead, message me or something. Otherwise, every so often I put it out on Facebook. I ask, and then we'll make some videos. I still have the notes from the last time that I asked, and we're going to finish those up. And I hope I answered your question there, Tammy. All right. Oh, I learned the hard way. I took 2 dogs with that I had walked with. I felt like I knew their signals, and I tried. Yeah, very verbal with them. They both stopped, and that was the last time I did. Yes, the momentum of a bike just makes it so much more dangerous. Even running instead of walking, I would actually run with them first before riding a bike, because that a lot of the signals that you're going to tell them are the same, and at least you're not going quite it. It's kind of like a halfway step. They both stopped, and that was the last time I did that. Is there a distance that I shouldn't exceed? A distance with a 10-year-old pit bull mixed breed. Okay, I'm going to actually talk about that a little bit earlier, and I'm going to cover that again. I just want to get him good and worn out with lots of stimulation. Okay. I'd like, obviously, a 10-year-old pit. When it comes to physical stuff, I do it just like the training. I don't train the breed. I don't train what age or whatever. I train the dog in front of me. So that means whatever individual issues that dog is having will be that dog's issues. So yes, it might be a pit bull, and maybe they have this behavior of guarding this or that, or a German Shepherd. Actually, German Shepherd is a much more guardy breed, but some German Shepherds aren't. So there's always that whole wide range. So same with the physical nature. Sometimes a 10-year-old dog, you're like, oh, 10-year-old dog, I'm not going to be running with that. Just like people, there can be like 70-year-olds that are doing 5Ks out there. So just watch your dog. If the dog is showing signs, then obviously you might want to back off. I actually went through this a lot with my dog, Namera. She, they're going off now. Something's outside. She, as she aged, she couldn't run anymore. I ran with her, walked with her all her life. She used to run 6 miles with me. My dogs had different levels. 6 miles was the top for a couple of my dogs. I have one dog when he was at his peak, and I was at my peak too. We're going to put that in a note. We would run 13 miles together, like full on run, nonstop, just go. But he had longer legs, bigger lungs. He didn't have joint issues. Namara had knee surgeries, things like that. So watch them. Sometimes if they start getting that smile, that's not necessarily a good smile. Sometimes that's them holding back pain. And if it's a dog that has a good drive, now here I'm like sometimes pit bulls or any dog that has a low satiation, satiation meaning, oh, I can get, you've thrown the ball enough, I don't need to chase it anymore. A low satiation dog would be like, I can't move, but please throw the ball. That's a low satiation dog. They go past a dog that's willing to go past its limit, so you have to kind of be its own gauge. So just watch. If there's limping happening after the day after or anything like that, then you've definitely probably went a little too far. Just really pay attention to those subtle changes. Dogs are not as good. Not all dogs are good about telling you. I have one dog. Soon as anything happens, she will whine and she is done. Namara, my eldest dog, she will fight through any pain to keep going through. So I have to watch for her other signs, like her limping, her doing this or that, because she will not tell me. If she yelps, I know that that's a 9 or 10 on her pain scale. While my other dog, I know just from experience that if it yelps, it's a 3 or 4 on its pain scale kind of deal. Just like people, there's different tolerances. So really just keep an eye on your dog. I do suggest keep moving them as much as you can, with the caveat, as per vet recommendations, because they're the ones that know the physical nature. But we do know that the more an animal or person exercises, the more we can stave off some of those ailments of old age. Namara can't run with me, so I run with the other dogs. Now I'm trying to get back into shape again. We'll see how that goes. But when I come back, then I walk Namara around. At least getting that movement, the blood flow going, will always help out. As far as an exact distance to go, your dog's going to tell you that. But the thing is, you need to be very paying a lot of attention to what your dog can and can't do. Notice how are they behaving afterwards, and also don't expect exercise to cure all the problems. Sometimes when you are like, a lot of people will tell me, oh, I'm going to run the dog forever and then it's going to be fine, which yes, that can get rid of a lot of those high energy issues. But if you run a dog 6 miles a day, what else are you going to end up with? An energetic dog that's also a high athlete. So in the end, what you do is you actually increase the energy tolerance level of that dog just by trying to do that. So yes, I do still suggest it. Just keep in mind that there's never a one situation to help with that. But running and all that stimulation of them seeing all the world around definitely is a big factor in that. Just really pay attention to that, your individual dog, and what they are telling you or trying to hide from you. Because sometimes they're like, no, I can totally do this. And you're like, no, you just remember, all dogs and pets like this, at best, they're a 3 or 4 year old mentally, as far as like cognitive abilities are concerned. So as I tell a lot of my clients, you have to be the adult and sometimes go, you know what? We're done playing fetch. You know what? We've ran far enough. Take it slow. If you're doing, I always suggest don't make the dog just go from couch dog to, don't do couch dog to, we're doing a 5K with this dog. With my dogs, I bring them, when I'm doing couch to 5K training, from couch all the way up there, they're going with me because they need to progress slowly, just like we need to progress slowly. So keep that in mind as well. All right. I hope I answered your questions. If anybody has any last questions, go ahead, put them into the chat, and we should be good. But I'll give it a few more minutes to see if anybody has any last questions for me. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it, and I hope you all are staying nice and safe during this interesting times that we live in. We'll put it that. And once again, one last time, I'm just going to say another big thank you to Western State Bank because they helped us go through that loan process, and I'm so grateful that they did, so that we could keep on keeping all the pets in Southwest Kansas and beyond a little bit happier with their families, and their families happier with them. All right, it looks like we don't have any more questions. I don't see anybody typing. So, with that, I will call it. And thank you guys for visiting with me. Thank you for staying nice and safe. And if you do have any issues that need to be looked at now rather than later. Oh, hi, Namara. Speaking of the old puppy, we were talking about old puppies a lot tonight. Hi. Yes, I know. How are you? Yes, baby girl. What's happening? If anybody has any help that they need, we are doing video consultations. You going to climb onto the bed? No, you're going to use that orthopedic bed that we bought you. Good. We are doing video consultations if you want face-to-face. We will have to wait till the stay-at-home order is lifted. But we are still able to help quite a bit. Vast majority of behaviors we can still do online with some simple consultations, some training of you on what to do. So no problem. I'm happy to help. And thank you all. You all stay safe and have a good rest of your day. Or evening, I guess, at this point.